The other thing that it does is it guarantees that members of Congress vote up or down on the agreement. Now you may ask, why would you do that? Why would you have that type of authority put in place? And it would apply to this president as well as future presidents for the next 6 years, because there's a time frame on it. The reason why, if you're negotiating these agreements, and the two agreements that get referenced, and there's acronyms, TPP is the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TTIP is the European Union agreement that is likely to be considered under this proposal. If you're negotiating with 11 other countries, the negotiators at the table, just as, how many people, Steve's in a union, how many people are in a union? Yeah, you're in a union. So when you negotiate your collective bargaining agreement, does every member of the unit go into the collective bargaining room? You have representatives, right? That are,
we're kept in the dark.
That are empowered by the union to negotiate on your behalf. And see, this is why this is an enhancement of what your experience has been. Because when we send those negotiators in, we're saying you have a minimum standard of meeting these 150 different points that have to be addressed in the legislation. And so what that will do, if you have 435 members of the House and 100 members of the U.S. Senate sitting at a table negotiating with those 11 countries, how are you going to get to a final agreement?
That's a false narrative completely.
No, that's not true.
You can pick representatives, you can do it with 2 or 3 people. The idea that you're going to have 530 some negotiators is just a false narrative. Again, you can select bipartisan 2 or 3 trade negotiators because it's Congress's congressional role to do this.
And that's what our negotiators are, is that handful of negotiators that would go under the Trade Promotion Authority into the negotiation room, negotiate those 150 points at a minimum before they would even get access to having the agreement approved by Congress.
You're doing this before the negotiations are completed, which with the TPP they almost are. They're wrapping this up in the coming weeks or months.
They're not as close as you may think they are.
So you're going to select representatives to go in and participate in those negotiations.
Correct. Well, the administration out of the trade office will have the negotiators that represent us there. We as members of Congress and other credentialed parties can go see what's being negotiated, and then when the final agreement comes, you can actually look at the agreement for 60 days, that hasn't been done before.
And that's everyone can do it. That's public, not just members of Congress. It's 60 days.
That's open to the public. That's out there.
But the negotiators are members of Congress, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, the negotiators are through the administration, through the trade office, that are empowered to go to the...
So you're not regulating commerce with other nations, which is what the Constitution requires.
Well, no, we are fundamentally approving the agreement.
It doesn't say rubber stamp agreements with other nations. It says Congress regulates commerce with other nations.
Sure.
That's the Commerce Clause that Fast Track basically ignores. If the congressional representatives were involved in the negotiations, this wouldn't be a point. But they're not. It's all in the administration, all in the executive branch.
And it's a great point that you point out, because as of yet, we don't have trade promotion authority in law. So who's controlling these negotiations? As you point out, TPP and TTIP, there are initial negotiations going on. We don't have access to the degree that I feel comfortable with that Trade Promotion Authority to give us access to those negotiations. That is a fundamental problem, and by TPA, we're trying to break that down so we have access as credentialed
Access, but not as negotiators. You're not regulating commerce through the TPA.
I guess if we're disagreeing as to who the representatives for the negotiators, you would want members of Congress to be the negotiators.
Or their representatives.
Okay. And that's where the administration...
Per the Constitution. I mean, this is...
That's where the administration, with counsel from... I mean, we're talking to the trade individuals. They're the negotiators that have been selected to go and negotiate these agreements.
So what the Constitution gives the administration to do is to negotiate treaties.
Okay.
Treaties. So if this is a treaty, it should go before the Senate for ratification on a 2/3 vote, not fast track. Again, another reason it's unconstitutional.
I would look at that as an enhancement to make sure the House is weighing in and approving these agreements. Your suggestion would be just have the Senate weigh in and approve the treaty unilaterally. I think it would be better to...
The framers laid down the course here. Now, if you want to say, screw the framers, we're going to do it our way, that's fine. If you want to make that case, that's fine. But the framers wanted treaties before the Senate for ratification and modification. So if there's something really rotten in this treaty, then they can amend it and pull it out or add to it. That's what treaties, that's what the framers established as a method for ratifying treaties. And the TPA totally ignores what the framers intended.
If they're doing